In a quiet little diner just off the highway in a small American town, the morning sun poured through the windows like liquid gold. The smell of fresh coffee and sizzling bacon filled the air. At a corner booth sat a tired black man named Marcus Reed, a single dad who worked double shifts just to keep the lights on and food on the table for his 8-year-old daughter, Lily. He had scraped together enough for a rare treat, pancakes with strawberries and a glass of cold milk for her, and a simple plate of eggs for himself. Lily was giggling, swinging her legs under the table, syrup on her chin. For one precious moment, the weight of the world felt lighter. Then the door swung open hard, and everything changed. If stories like this touch your heart the way they touch mine, please take a second to subscribe to Whispers of Heart 0.2, hit that like button, and leave a comment telling me where you're watching from. Your support keeps these real stories of kindness alive. Marcus looked up as the sheriff's boots clicked across the linoleum. Sheriff Harlan Cole was a big man with a star on his chest and a permanent scowl that made people step aside. He had built his reputation on being tough, never soft. When his eyes landed on Marcus, dark skin, worn work jacket, sitting with a little girl, he didn't see a father. He saw a threat. Without a word of explanation, Harlan strode over, yanked Marcus's arm, and snapped the cold metal cuffs around his wrists right there in front of everyone. The diner went silent. Forks froze halfway to mouths. Lily's eyes went wide with fear. "Daddy," she whispered. Marcus kept his voice calm even as the cuffs bit into his skin. "It's okay, baby. Stay right there. Don't move." Harlan pulled him to his feet and barked loud enough for the whole room to hear. "You're coming with me. We got a report of a suspect matching your description." No arguments. Customers stared. Some looked away in discomfort. A few muttered under their breath. Marcus could have yelled. He could have fought. Instead he simply nodded toward the unfinished pancakes and said, "Sir, please, just let my daughter finish her breakfast. She's only 8. Harlan's lip curled. "Not my problem." He dragged Marcus toward the door while Lily started to cry. The waitress, an older woman named Ruth who had seen Marcus come in many mornings before, stepped forward. "Sheriff, that man is a good father. He tips when he barely has money. He holds the door for folks. You're making a mistake." Harlan didn't even look at her. "Stay out of it, Ruth." Outside, the morning air felt colder. Marcus stood cuffed beside the patrol car while Lily pressed her face against the diner window, tears streaming. Harlan radioed for backup, his voice full of satisfaction. He had made an arrest before most people finished their first cup of coffee. That was the kind of day that made him feel powerful. What Harlan didn't know was that kindness has a long memory, and sometimes it travels farther than any badge. 3 years earlier, on a rainy night in another town, Marcus had been driving home from a late shift when he saw a car in the ditch. He pulled over without thinking. Inside was a young woman, bleeding, phone dead, terrified. Marcus stayed with her until the ambulance came. He gave her his jacket. He held her hand and told her she wasn't alone. He never asked her name. He never waited for thanks. He just did what felt right and drove away into the dark. That young woman was FBI agent Elena Vasquez. The crash had been no accident, it was the work of a trafficking ring she had been investigating. Marcus's quiet help that night had kept her alive long enough to give critical information that eventually brought the whole operation down. Elena never forgot the stranger who refused to leave her side. Now, on this ordinary morning, Elena was in the area for a different case. When a local alert about an arrest at the diner reached her tablet, she saw the photo of the man in cuffs. Her heart stopped. She recognized the kind eyes. She recognized the quiet strength. She dialed the sheriff's department on the official FBI line. Harlan's radio crackled just as he was about to push Marcus into the back seat. The dispatcher's voice was sharp. "Sheriff Cole, you have an urgent call from Special Agent Elena Vasquez of the FBI. She says you're holding the wrong man and you need to release him immediately." Harlan's face went red. He snatched the phone. Elena's voice came through clear and cold. "Sheriff, the man you just cuffed is Marcus Reed. 3 years ago he saved my life on a roadside when I was undercover and bleeding out. Because of him, we shut down a network that had hurt dozens of people. You will take those cuffs off right now. You will apologize. And you will never treat another citizen like this again without cause. Do I make myself clear?" The silence that followed was heavy. Harlan's mouth opened and closed. Backup officers stood frozen. Slowly, with hands that suddenly felt clumsy, Harlan unlocked the cuffs. The metal fell away. Marcus rubbed his wrists but said nothing. He simply turned and walked back into the diner, straight to the booth where Lily still waited, her face streaked with tears. He knelt down and pulled her into his arms. "I'm right here, baby. Nobody's taking me away." Ruth brought fresh pancakes without being asked. The other customers started to clap, quietly at first, then louder. An old farmer stood up and put a 20 on the table. "For the little girl's breakfast," he said. A young couple added another bill. One by one, people who had watched the injustice unfold now chose kindness instead. Harlan stood in the doorway, hat in his hands, looking smaller than he ever had. He cleared his throat. "Mr. Reed. I'm sorry. I was wrong." Marcus looked at him for a long moment. Then he nodded once. "People make mistakes. What matters is what we do after." Elena arrived 20 minutes later. She walked straight to Marcus and hugged him hard. "I've looked for you for 3 years just to say thank you," she said. "You never even left your name." Marcus smiled the tired smile of a man who had carried too much for too long. "Didn't need to. Doing the right thing is enough." That afternoon the diner stayed busy with people who came not for the food but for the feeling that something good had won. Lily colored pictures on the back of placemats and gave them to strangers. Marcus finally finished his eggs, cold but somehow the best meal he had tasted in years. In the days that followed, the story spread through the town the way light spreads at dawn. Harlan began stopping by the diner not to arrest anyone but to sit and talk. He started checking on families who needed help instead of only looking for trouble. Ruth kept a special corner booth free for single parents who looked like they could use a warm meal and a little dignity. And Marcus kept working, kept raising his daughter, kept holding doors and offering quiet help whenever he could, because that was simply who he was. Kindness doesn't always arrive with fanfare. Sometimes it looks like a stranger stopping on a rainy road. Sometimes it looks like a father staying calm so his child won't be afraid. Sometimes it looks like a whole community deciding, in one small moment, that they will choose compassion over judgment. We all have the power to be that stranger, that father, that community. One kind act can travel farther than we ever imagine. It can free the innocent, soften the hard-hearted, and remind us that every person we meet is fighting a battle we may never see. So the next time you have the chance to show mercy instead of force, patience instead of pride, or a simple helping hand instead of looking away, take it. You never know whose life you might save, or whose story you might rewrite, with nothing more than an open heart.